creating the specs.
It's an O, got it.
So I think we're gonna be right. Well, that'll be an interesting story. Yeah, that's right.
All right, I'm breaking down and checking the email.
Sorry, Ellen, did I make you feel like you had to?
No, actually, no, I didn't. That was my plan all morning. Whatever came in last night is.
Post-COVID, we started, I think that's when it started. And then at that point, kudos to you or something.
But I was.
It would be kind of neat, but. Yeah, anyway.
Okay, we are officially calling our Washington State University Board of Regents meeting for Friday, March 10th to order. Thanks everybody for your attention. I love it when Des sets the gavel on Fridays. She doesn't give it to me on Thursdays, only Fridays. So okay, I want to again acknowledge that we have Regent Redmond and Regent Shetler on the call with us coming in virtually. So good morning, you guys. All right, members of the public are invited to view this meeting via YouTube and live stream. A link to live stream is available on the Board of Regents website. The board would like to now I'm going to actually kind of step into a little bit of an informal president or chairman of the board report. One, I want to just say a very, very special thank you to our presenters yesterday. So Saichi Oba, Matt Skinner, Ellen Taylor, Phil Weiler, all those that participated in the preparation of the reports that you did. I just really, we know what kind of work goes into that and the time that it takes to prepare for us to be able to ask questions and learn. And so just thank you very much. The quality of the presentations too, I think I speak for the board around the succinctness of it and how you are packaging the information so we can really absorb it because it's a lot to take in. So thank you to our presenters. I think, on behalf of the board too, we just want to say a special thank you as you to really all faculty and really to the WSU community. As I was trying to convey with Ellen Taylor and the work that she does, as well as if you are in the business of crisis communication and the work that, our communications team does, the heaviness of what we have been dealing with over the course of many years, whether it's a pandemic, whether it is budget challenges, whether it is the diminished enrollments that we are having to grapple with, and whether it is just the heaviness of some of the really tragic things that have happened in our community and around us, it's just heavy. And so for all of you in the WSU community, anybody that shows up for WSU every single day, thank you. We acknowledge that you have carried the flag in a way that some days I know gets really, really heavy. So thank you very much, all of you. I guess, and then I would say this too. Sometimes I think we get so in the midst of the campus we're on, whether that's Pullman, Spokane, Vancouver, Everett, Tri-Cities, but I want to acknowledge our chancellors. You all just do an amazing job running your shop in your different locations. And sometimes I think that can be, a lonely space when you're kind of out there on your own, sitting perhaps in Vancouver, or maybe you're sitting in Spokane just trying to figure it out, or you're in the middle of Pullman. And although it feels like everything's around you, it's still acknowledgement to Sandra and others, to all of you, that we appreciate the work you do to represent Washington State University and to serve the communities in the state, and how you run those shops like they're your very own. So thank you very much. And President Kirk, thank you as always. Leading with a steady hand is something that we just continue to ask for. The engagement level is going to be important, more important than it's ever been with what's about to, come through the year 2023. So thank you and keep at it. So, okay, with that, I'm going to move into just wanting to acknowledge that We do have a period of time for public comment at the end of this meeting. The public comment period will be after the regular agenda items and will be up to 10 minutes. Each speaker is allowed 2 minutes. And those that would like to speak, you can sign up. And if you have not signed up in advance, you can do that with our board's assistant, Desiree Jacobson. So thank you. And we'll kick our morning off with President Schultz and the president's report.
Great, thank you.
You know what, can I do one thing?
You
Because I
can,
totally
you're the
missed
board
it.
chair, you can do whatever you want.
Well, that's good to know. No, I'm sorry, I totally missed something that I really actually wanted to take a moment to do. I know I did this yesterday briefly, but I would like to take the opportunity to formally welcome our most recent board regent, which is Doug Pika. So Doug, thank you. He's 24 hours in and loving it, loving it. And so a little bit about Doug. He retired from being the president of the Seattle Children's Foundation in January of 2022. He had served in that capacity since the foundation had been established in 1982. So a wonderful legacy that Doug built over there. Doug graduated from Washington State University in 1975, where he has recently received an Alumni Achievement Award in 2002. In 1990, Doug founded the Woodmark Group, which is comprised of 27 of the largest children's hospitals in North America. Doug also served on the Board of Trustees of the College Success Foundation in both Washington State and Washington, D.C., which brings a wealth of knowledge to us as we have all these talks about FAFSA and access. And so looking forward to that expertise. And most importantly, Doug has a wife, Cassie. They reside in Bainbridge Island. They have 4 children and 6 grandchildren, and you can't not say he has 2 more on the way. So all of which are under 5 years old. So you can imagine what Christmas is like at your house. So welcome, Doug. We're glad to have you here. Okay, Kurt, I'm turning it to you now.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's good to see everybody this morning. It's great to be on the Tri-Cities campus. And I thought we had a really good meeting yesterday. I was just reflecting back a little bit that it was maybe a year and a half ago, we talked about the need for the board to be able to be engaged in more strategic discussions with great Q&A. And I thought we had 3 really good sessions yesterday morning on Thursday morning. So appreciate the board's engagement, helping us to get better. And I know I appreciate all the VPs and others that were all part of those conversations yesterday. So thank you very much. One of the things about having a great leadership team is we're sometimes going to have some transition. So we'll have a chance to really recognize the exceptional work that our outgoing Vice President for External Affairs and Government Relations, Colleen Kerr, had. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But after 13 years at WSU, Colleen has this great professional opportunity to go to work for Microsoft and take that next step in her career. And I appreciate that Chris Mulick, who had served as our Senior Director for State Relations, has stepped into the role of Interim Vice President for External Affairs and Government Relations. So I know Chris was at dinner last night. Many of you had a chance to meet with him. A lot of our community knows Chris from the work that he's done. And it's always great to have sort of somebody as a great leader. And then right behind them, several people that can step into those roles and represents a great opportunity for them moving forward. So I appreciate everything Chris has done and will continue to do in this new role. So one of the other things that working with our faculty senate colleagues that came up really, I will say, over sort of Christmas break in the beginning of the year was just a desire to see the administration talk a little bit more about some of where we were with fiscal health. And I want to make this clear. It wasn't just what a current budget cut is, but what are long-term implications? What does enrollment look like? What is the impact of a reduced enrollment on our budget and our fiscal health? So we came up with a series of letters that I've been able to put out working with the chancellors and other members of the leadership team. The first one was a little bit of, we got some challenges out there. We've got some financial challenges. We got some issues, particularly around where we might rank in some of our reputational polls, and what are we doing about some of those things. So after that letter, the next one that went out 2 weeks later really kind of dealt with, here's what we think our enrollment's going to be in the fall at our different campuses. And I appreciate that a lot of people went into saying, okay, here's where we think we want to be. And what we want to do with these publications is, they're hard things sometimes to write. So what you want to do is don't want to put out a bunch of things that look like they're depressing. On the other hand, you don't want to look like you're so optimistic that people go, these are unrealistic, we're not getting real information. So we're trying to hit this, point with all the publications saying, here's where we think we are, here's what the data shows, and here's what we're doing about it. And so our next one will go out on Monday, and it's going to sort of look at where we are with our long-term debt for the institution. What types of things are we doing with tuition discounting, and showing historical trends. And again, just trying to be transparent with our community about where we are fiscally, what our fiscal health looks like, and what types of things we're doing. The other upcoming ones that will be sort of post spring break, we're going to do one around just kind of where we are with intercollegiate athletics. And I've written ones before around intercollegiate athletics that had lots of news, not always so good about where we were the budget. This is not really about the budget, but it's touching on that, but it's also where we are with name, image, and likeness. What's happening with the Pac-12? There's a lot of stuff out there that, again, our university community is really interested in. And then finally, we want to do one talking about our surveys and these different types of rankings that we see out there. And we've got some reputational ones like a U.S. News and World Report where people are disappointed about where we are. But we also have some rankings that are things like where we rank with other public research universities in terms of our research productivity per faculty member and overall, that show that we are a top 60, top 70 university around the country, and our faculty and staff and students are doing amazing work. And so what we want to do is just put some perspectives out there on those types of things so that we want to be realistic about there are some work to do in terms of reputation, but there's also some quantitative things out there that show WSU is doing great work. We're a nationally recognized, internationally recognized university, and proud of that. So be watching for those communications, and that'll sort of wrap up the semester, kind of doing those things about a cadence of every 2 to 2.5 weeks as we wrap things up. Well, we were really thrilled this year at the State of the Union address to have VC of Boylan College of Engineering and Architecture Dean Mary Rezac attended as the guest of Senator Maria Cantwell. And it really shows a real focus around STEM related initiatives in the state, and particularly what we're doing at WSU in this particular space in engineering. We've talked a lot about the building and the fundraising and some of the great positives that are happening with our engineering programs across the state. But coupled with this, there was also a nice editorial in the Seattle Times talking about the need for STEM and STEM investment in the state of Washington. The Spokesman Review did a really nice article as well. Again, our Marcom people, that didn't all happen spontaneously. It was all put together as a package, but it was a really nice time for WSU in the state of Washington to be really stepping out with some messaging around the importance of these areas for our state, for our university, and for our economy. So really pleased with that. I'm advancing in 2 places here, so I got to be careful. I'm not talking about the slide I have on my laptop and not the one up there. Recently, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services we had a grant that we received for about $1.2 million to really work on mental health resources in rural and underserved areas. In many of our rural communities, teachers and staff tend to be the only non-family support members that maybe a lot of our school age folks see. And the Children and Family Research Unit in this particular grant will serve up to 6,000 students and 700 teachers and staff for the next 3 years in this particular area. We talk about this being a common theme as we're doing our campaign 3 for Washington State University, this idea of the land grant university in the state really focused around rural and underserved, and that can be urban areas as well. we see this theme come up through extension, through what we're doing in the health sciences, what we're doing in these other degree fields. And I think that's really an important theme. And it feels like it's the type of thing that we should be doing at WSU. Well, we've got to talk a little bit about Cougar athletics and just this exciting week this last week. Noel and I, Coach Jake Dicker, Pat Chun, all of us had an opportunity to be in Las Vegas for the Sunday game where we beat UCLA to win our first women's team championship in any sport at WSU. It was just a fantastic time to watch. And then what was even more fantastic was to see all the PR that came out about Washington State University in that time. I was looking at the New York Times on Monday morning on the front page of the electronic edition. There we are. It's Washington State University right there. If this next, Shania Twain, many of you saw the video of our ladies basketball team singing the Shania Twain song. She picked up on it and started also on her Twitter feed saying things about Washington State University and Cougar women's basketball and things like that. And it was just really fun to sort of see that work. And I also want to give our Marcom people a lot of credit because they were ready to go. And when some of this stuff happened a couple of years ago, I think we would have done a little bit, but there was a lot of capitalization on pushing and doing things with this really kind of positive story that's been out there. So this one went national, not just local in the state, but really exciting to see. Appreciate the job Pat Chun continues to do, hiring fantastic coaches that are doing really good things and representing Washington State University on and off the court in such an effective way. So we clearly punched our ticket to the NCAA tournament. This will be the third consecutive year in a row, but only our fourth time ever. And so it's really kind of cool to see this type of coverage for Cougar athletics. Well, I don't like to stay in any one place too long, so I've been all over the place in the last 2 months. And interestingly, one of the trips that I was supposed to take pre-COVID was to go to Kenya to sort of see some of the operations and things that we're doing there through our College of Veterinary Medicine and specifically the Allen School for Global Health. And I'd read all the statistics on it and all those things. And you go there and you sort of, you go, well, how many people do we have on our payroll? Oh, about 200 people on Washington State's payroll there. How much research do you do annually? Oh, $24 million in research expenditures in East Africa by WSU faculty and staff. We have 7 full-time faculty that are resident in Kenya, part of the Allen School, that also do this research with the Center for Disease Control, National Institute of Health, USAID, and these other granting agencies. And it is just a much bigger operation than you really kind of think when you're just sort of seeing those statistics. So I had an opportunity to go. I was there with CBM Dean Dory Borgeson, who's there, as well as Guy Palmer, who is a member of the National Academy of Medicine and one of the Creighton Chair, and one of our really preeminent faculty. Tom Kula is in the back right underneath the vision sign. He's the director of the Allen School. And we just had an opportunity to be there for almost a week and visit with different groups. Here I am with a group of PhD candidates there. It turns out we have about 20 PhD students that are there studying and co-advised by Washington State University faculty. Interestingly, though, they all are getting PhDs currently at the University of Nairobi because we don't really have a great way to manage the PhD programs abroad. So one of the things that I did that when I was there, working with Elizabeth and her role as provost, is we're working on a joint PhD program where these candidates would get their PhD from the University of Nairobi simultaneously with a PhD in biomedical sciences from Washington State University. So we're working our way through our faculty governance side at the University of Nairobi. They're working their way through the faculty governance side. And we just think this is going to be a first best in class type of thing. We're having to go through accreditation issues to get this designated as a teaching site. So lots of steps to take. I think we're moving forward quickly, but our faculty deserve credit for these 20 PhD candidates that they're advising, that they're funding, and that they're working on. And so I think we're going to see a continuing growing program. The other thing before I go off of this slide is it was interesting. All the students were there and each of them gave a couple-minute presentation about what they were doing for their PhD project. And so at the end, I said, what do you all want to do when you're done? You know, when you're finished with your PhD? We got things like, I'm going to change East Africa. I'm going to make a difference in the world. And it was just stunning to go through and hear these passionate doctoral students. Many have already had MD degrees or their equivalent, had degrees in veterinary medicine. So this was, you know, they were continuing their schooling. And I just felt so inspired by this group of Cougs, and they all wearing Coug gear, talking about the difference they're going to make in the world, their country, and their area. So really a fun trip. This, we talk about our full-time staff. Excuse me, this is outside of our offices. We have half of a floor of an office building there. This is all people on WSU's payroll. So this is our professional staff there that deals with procurement, human resources, all those things that we have to do as part of that. Celestine Nagoja is in the back there. She runs our office there as kind of the office, it's not office manager. She just manages kind of our whole operation there behind the scenes, does a great job. She's going to be back at Pullman soon. So this was, again, part of what we spent some time with, is learning what each staff member does and how we can support them. And one of the interesting things that came up there is they said, we don't have access to Workday the way we need to. You know, we have to do things twice because of that. So when I got back, I was able to talk to Matt and get the Workday team working on how this is going to work together, because these are WSU folks. This is part of Washington State University, but they are physically in a very different place. And so that was a small thing that would have got buried, you know, in kind of emails. And we were able to elevate that and sort of say, we don't know what the issues are, but we're going to work towards them. So anyway, I'll make sure I'll be back on an annual basis. And then finally, I would say this is my counterpart outside the United States. As many of you are aware, typically the titles used is Vice Chancellor. The Chancellor, typically of a lot of universities outside the United States, is typically a government official, sometimes the president of the country, those kind of things. So he's the president of the University of Nairobi. Stephen Kiama. He will be visiting WSU sometime, we hope, this next year, and looking forward to kind of hosting him. University of Nairobi's got a little over 40,000 students. They have a medical school, a veterinary school, an agricultural school. They are one of the preeminent universities in Africa, and they really have intense relationships with two schools. I think Copenhagen and Washington State University. They're like everybody. They've got, you know, 250 signed MOUs, but if you say, who do you really work with? Who's a key partner? We're part of that. And so we want to continue to make sure that we're visiting. I'll be back on an annual basis. We're just simply doing too much there for me not to be present, be able to meet with government officials, counterparts at the university, and things like that. And we really look forward to taking this relationship to the next step and expanding it. And some of the areas they're interested in expanding into are agriculture, engineering, social sciences, things like this, where they want to do partnerships with WSU, our faculty, and have students there. This week, we have 4 or 5, I don't remember, students from the Murrow College that are visiting Nairobi as part of the backpack journalism program. Then we have a study abroad group that'll be at the University of Nairobi for 8 weeks this summer. Phil Mixter in the school for in the College of Veterinary Medicine is leading that effort. And they're not all veterinary medicine students. They're some in data science and other things. We'll be doing research projects there for 8 weeks. So we're trying to ramp up the program to have it students and faculty and staff from multiple disciplines. We have a return trip going in November where Dean Wendy Powers in agriculture, we're gonna have some folks from the health sciences and so on will go there. So I know it's a lot, but I just, I can't wait to have some of you all as board members be able to host some of our colleagues when they visit from the University of Nairobi, but it's a real great opportunity there. And this is a final thing I'll say about this is if we really look in we always talk about philanthropy and things like that, making an impact, making a big change. If I go back to the whole concept of what used to be called the Allen School for Global Animal Health, and that being put together and stood up, this today, this scope, this number of people doesn't happen if that step isn't taken. And it's over multiple presidents. Actually, that was over 3. It was really Lane and then Elson. And then I was able to come in at the end. And if you look at that, though, it just says strategic planning is important, a vision is important, and continued investment in that. So today we look and see all that stuff there, but it was really this idea of making a difference globally and really building off our strengths. And I want to emphasize this does not happen without people like Di Palmer, Tom Kula, that are world-class faculty that are at WSU that had this vision and would say, there are a lot of universities I couldn't have done this at. WSU is a place that allowed me that opportunity to be able to do that. So it's great to have presidents and chancellors with big ideas, but if we have faculty that are committed and want to make these things happen, that's where the great ideas come. The president's and chancellor's role to take those ideas, figure out how to move them forward. I think this is just a terrific example of that. So I'm going to end on that note. I appreciate opportunity to always update the board on lots of things happening between intercollegiate athletics, the work we're doing in Africa. We do have a lot of positives right now, and it's important to always remember that in the midst of budgetary challenge, what enrollment's going to look like, we're still moving forward aggressively nationally. And what's so cool about this is internationally. Thank you.
Thank you. What a great report. And I just appreciate it. I think for those of us that follow Kirk on social media, it's almost like we were in Africa with you with some of those posts. Like you did a great job capturing that.
Thank you.
We also have an idea that we're, Lisa and I want to send Enrique on a camping trip with Kirk and do a virtual show like for a week of what that feels like to camp with Kirk. Get the, he'll just be like, you know, a reality TV show. You won't even know he's there.
Yeah. You're right. Thank you. Yeah. I declined that opportunity just in case anybody wants to know. So
I think you're onto something. Okay. So since I was told that I can do whatever I want as the chair, I actually have great news for everybody in the audience. Let it be known that going forth for Regent meetings, Friday is Cougar Gear Day. You don't need to wear ties or suit jackets. It's kind of a business casual Friday Coug Day on Fridays for the Regent meetings. So there we go. I don't even do I need to get a vote for that or like an exercise. Okay. Moving along. We get to have now our wonderful chancellor of the Tri-Cities campus, Sandra Haynes. And again, we had such a great little field trip yesterday. So thank you so much to your faculty and to your researchers that did that for us, Sandra. It was outstanding.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to come speak today, and particularly to Chair Dickinson. I don't have the clock. Yesterday it intimidated me, so I made sure I wrote out my remarks so that I could be on time, but I don't know if I'm going to be as succinct as the rest of the people, but do know that at least I have 26 fonts.
That's a big font that you got there.
As bad as it appears. So anyway, as you walked in or walked around campus yesterday, I hope that you noticed our new Cougar Pride statue that's right outside the building. We're so excited that it is here. It is, just as a reminder, alumnus Gary Schneidmiller is was donating the duplicate of the Cougar that's outside of Martin Stadium for all the physical campuses. And we're pleased that ours was the first one to arrive. And it just looks right at home there outside of our award-winning building. So this building is not only new, but in November, we learned that we were an award-winning building. We won 2 awards from the Design Build Institute of America for Collaboration Hall. The first one was the Merit Award in Educational Facilities, and the second one was the Chairman Award, which is the second highest award that is given by the Design Build Institute of America. So I just want to talk about why we got those awards. First off, we were the judges were very impressed with our inclusivity in our design process, especially paying attention to what our customers wanted. We had students involved from the very beginning to the end, and they felt like that was very important to design build processes, and were impressed with what we did. They were particularly impressed that after the building was done, we collected data from the students to make sure that we had met their goals. So our post-occupancy survey from the students was also very impressive and showed that we had indeed met our goals, especially around belonging, and especially around belonging from students of color. So we were very pleased with that. Now you're going to hear me talk about data throughout my presentation today. That's sort of my sub-theme throughout. My team was going to go whoop, whoop, every time we said data, but now they've said, no, we probably should do that in the Board of Regents meeting, but you can hear that in your head as I say data. So one more thing back to the award. The other thing that impressed them is that we had a all-female team, a leadership team as we worked through. So our construction team was led by a woman, our architecture team was led by a woman, our design team was led by a woman, and of course the academic team was led by 2 women. And we're very pleased about that. They thought that that was very interesting, especially if we're talking about construction and construction as a STEM sort of field. All women was impressive to them. So we're very pleased. So it's no surprise that this year, as with the rest of the system, WSU system, we've been focusing on increasing our enrollment. Despite our budget difficulties that continue, we knew we needed to invest here, and we invested in hiring a director of admissions. So we actually hired somebody. That was a position that was on campus before I came and has been vacant for a while. So we hired it, and Jamie Owens, who I don't believe is here this morning, started in this position last August. And I have to say that the investment has indeed paid off for us. Applications for fall are up. We talked a little bit about that yesterday with Saichi, that could be Common App, but our applications are up. Our admissions are up. And most importantly, our confirmations are also trending up. So we're very excited about that. We do believe that in large part that is due to our admissions team efforts in improving our marketing and improving our campus events, and of course, making the application process itself and the admissions process itself as easy as it can be. And one of the things that the team did was to make sure that we were also reaching our Spanish speaking population in all of those materials. And that has also paid off. Our incoming class is more than 53% students of color and nearly 52% first generation. And just last year, we were at 50% students of color in our incoming class and 46% students of color, first generation students in our incoming class. So quite a jump. And we do think that our marketing efforts in that regard have paid off. One of the other things that we've done on campus, and this has to do, of course, with enrollment and data collection as well, is that we invested in a consultant, RPK group, to help us conduct what we're calling an academic portfolio and resource management review. And we're doing this to make certain that we're offering the types of programs that students want and need, students who come to the WSU Tri-Cities campus, that we're offering them in a manner that is accessible to them, and that we are using our limited resources most effectively and efficiently in the service of the mission of the campus. So right now, what we've done, I should say, of course, we're doing this because I want my whoop whoop from the audience, but we are doing this because we do believe in the power of data in making these important decisions. So at this point, in the process where we're at is the consultants have completed a significant amount of data collection and analysis and have been working with our academic directors to make sure that that data is correct. Once that step is completed, we will widely share it with the campus community. Probably take a little break in the summer and make sure that all of our faculty are back to review it in the fall. And with that data, then we will be able to accurately demonstrate what are our strengths, what programs are strengths, where are our gaps in programming, and how can we change our processes to make the student experience and even our administrative experience easier to navigate and more efficient. Efficiency is important here. So once that's done, we will also be able to use this tool on a continuous basis so that we have continuous improvement in years to come. So once the consultant leaves, they will leave us with a tool to be able to do this on a year-to-year basis to make sure that we continue in that improvement process. This year, we also are looking at new degree programs even before this review is done, but we're doing this based on our bona fide need that we identified in our strategic planning process, our environmental scan and our strategic planning process a few years ago, and we are implementing 3 programs this year. We're starting in the implementation of these programs. Because of the legislative support that we got last year, the campus is nearing the end. I'm looking at Kate to make sure this is true, nearing the end of a search for 3 faculty members for a new cybersecurity program. That program is also on Everett campus and the Pullman campus. We're also right now in the process of hiring a director and a field placement coordinator for the social work program, and thank you for your approval of that. We're very hopeful again that the legislature will give us even more money to fund that program. That's in process right now as well, so that we can more quickly ramp up that program to accommodate a more vibrant BSW to MSW program on campus and spread that MSW across the system. And then finally, we just hired a quarter-time director, Jonathan Mayle, for the Institute for Northwest Energy Futures. He comes to us from PNNL. You've probably heard about him already because the other 75% of his job is as Associate Vice President for the Office of Research. We get him 25% to keep INEF moving forward. Because as you're probably aware, the governor did stop by the campus just in December and announced that he would be asking for nearly $10 million for the Institute for Northwest Energy Futures to get that moving in a more profound way here on this campus. If it's funded, we would be able to hire 8 new faculty members across the Tri-Cities campus and a few in Pullman as well. So we're very excited and looking forward to April when we can hear positively that we've gotten that money. I am very optimistic about it. The INEF hires are especially important to us because they meet our strategic goal of hiring tenure track faculty in cognate areas. So for us, that is energy and the environment. And what that does for our faculty is that gives them the ability for greater success. Sometimes when you're on a small campus, you don't have faculty that you can rely on. Having people in cognate areas at least gives you researchers that you can say, well, we are in similar areas, let's help each other out and let's get for tenure. As you saw yesterday in Bessel, we have a lot of great faculty that are in that program, and adding INEF on top of the Bioproduct Sciences Engineering Laboratory will just make us stronger in the area of energy and the environment. Okay, next. We'd like to be a strong community partner or a resource in our community, and so I'm really pleased that we are making great strides in the rebuilding of our continuing and professional education arm of campus, which we are calling Cougar Tracks. Yes, we know there's an ice cream called Cougar Tracks, but we are also using it, and we have permission to use it for our continuing and professional education arm of the campus. I'm sending around our brand new logo that just came off the presses yesterday. So we know that the need for continuing education is really important, and that's evident across the nation as the perceived need for a college degree tends to be waning in the general public. And that's for students and even for employers. So there is a push out there for alternative credentialing and skills training, and we are keenly aware that we need to find better ways and better pathways to a four-year degree, as well as providing educational opportunities across what I like to call the career life cycle, not only for degree and certificate attainment, but providing upskilling and reskilling of the current workforce for those, because the jobs of the future are changing even as we speak, and people are going to need to be upskilled and reskilled throughout their careers. So one of the unique selling points for Cougar Tracks for us is that and for employers, frankly, is that all of our courses are developed in conjunction, in partnership with industry partners and with faculty experts. So we join together to create the courses so they definitely meet the industry needs. We can also take different industries. So if Mark Schuster from Lamb Weston needs a particular course, we can work with him to tailor it to his particular company and offer it to that company. Sorry, Mark, just saw you out there. I thought you'd be a good example. So we can tailor it to their specific needs. One of the things that's very important to us about this program, or at least to me, was that it be a self-sustaining program. And I can tell you after a year, we're just over $10,000 in profits. And so I'm feeling pretty good about how we're going to move forward into the future. So last year, if you were here, I discussed our involvement in the American Council on Education's Learner Success Laboratory. Just a reminder, the purpose of the Learner Success Lab and the accompanying Equity Academy is to ensure excellence in the classroom via prioritizing, data-informed decision-making, agility and transformation, and diversity, equity, inclusion. You can see that on the outside. Those are the main goals on their logo. So over the past year and a half, we've had 28 faculty and staff participate in 6 Learner Success Laboratory subcommittees. That's a large number for this campus. It's a large percentage of faculty that have participated. And we've had 12 faculty that have participated in the Equity Academy. We just recently submitted our campus self-study for American Council on Education's review, and we've identified 5 points of institutional focus that will continue to move us toward our application for the Seal of Excellencia, which is our main goal in joining the Learner Success Laboratory, as I said last year. So these 5 points are equity and data gathering. I'm just waiting for the whoops. Okay, thank you, Phil. Okay, equity and institutional decision-making, intentional communications, intentional human resources, and intentional institutional culture. We can go into those in more depth if you like at the break. But as with our academic portfolio review, I will have more to come on this initiative next year. So you're going to hear continuations of very transformational projects that we're doing over the next few years. But for right now, what the Learner Success Lab has reinforced for us is that we need to keep pushing on the boundaries of what it means to be a true learning community across our campus. And yes, intentionally focusing on student success inside and outside of the classroom. And so, as I am wont to do, I'd like to show you by example how recent changes in pedagogy are really making an impact. One of the things you have at your place setting is a testimony from a student about how impactful they have found our faculty. That is for reading at your leisure. What I'd like to discuss next is a specific success in using learning assistants in our classroom. And the Learning Assistance Project was a project that was funded by the Provost's office. So thank you, Provost Chilton, for funding this effort. So I'd like to show you and everybody else how this worked for us. I'm going to talk about Computer Science 121, where for the first time this fall, we had a 100% pass rate in that class, which is pretty phenomenal for a computer science class. So 3 key interventions were used to accomplish this. The first one was the use of undergraduate learning assistants, and those are students who have previously taken the class and done a great job in the class. They are hired back to help the next group of students coming through. Faculty developed a purposely transparent course design in which the instructor clearly communicates the purpose, task, and criteria for assignments and grading. And they use real-world problems in the classroom, which students can then explore the complexity of each topic covered in class and relate the real world to what they're learning in class right there. So really what we've done, and what everybody's done who's implemented this project, is given the students the support they need in the classroom, letting them know upfront what to expect, and giving them that direct connection between academic exercises and employable skills. The last example that I want to give you is it involves faculty who are working to design course assignments that include things like open-ended problems. So these are the kinds of situations that you might find yourself in the workforce. There's not necessarily a clear answer. There's not a clear direction. There's some ambiguity, and it takes skill and critical thinking, creative and critical thinking skills to actually solve them. So the example I'm going to give you is DTC 101. They did a unit on design thinking that required students to this was the assignment, identify a design problem on campus and provide a solution and use data to back up what you found and present that data, do some sort of data visualization. Totally up to you how you do that. Now, this was a big intellectual stretch for some of the students, and the faculty member reports that one of the students leaving the class after receiving this assignment loudly pronounced, "I am not comfortable with this assignment," and walked out of the room. But in the end, that student and their team, which is teamwork, another very important skill to the workforce, did the very best project in the class. And when they presented it to the class, they got very positive feedback. We actually are looking at it as a potentially implementing them on our campus. It was that well done. Now, later in the semester, the same students had to complete a data visualization unit that culminated with collecting data. Again, could be whatever you want. It could be personal. Okay, thank you, Kate. Could be personal, could be anything that they wanted to collect data on. And then they needed to do a hand-drawn visualization in the data in any format that made sense to the student, but they had to be able to explain it to their class. So that same student who walked out and said, "I'm not comfortable with this assignment," came back, and when he did his presentation, he presented his data in this format, and he said, "I am on the autism spectrum, and I collected a week's worth of data on my social interactions." They coded these social interactions from blunder to victory. And you'll notice in the photo that not only the student unabashedly bring their whole self to this very public presentation of their data, but they also coded multiple occasions, maybe you can't see it through there, but multiple occasions throughout the week when their assessment of their social interactions was revised after further reflection. These may seem like maybe not relevant skills, but these are the skills that are incredibly important to the workforce. Being able to put yourself out there, collect data, visualize that data, and make corrections as you move through. And frankly, it did my little psychologist heart skip a beat when we saw somebody applying this to their private life as well, because we all should be doing that. We also know that extracurricular activities are as important as those in-class experiences. And just last week, our Dreamers Club, along with students from our TRIO program, traveled to Pullman to experience the Hostile Terrain 94 exhibit at the Jordan Snitzer Museum of Art. And they got to meet with the artist, Dr. Jason De Leon. Hostile, I don't know if you've seen it, but Hostile Terrain 94 brings attention to the loss of human life that is part of the story of migration at the US-Mexico border in Arizona. The students reported that it was a very powerful day and a very important opportunity for students to share their own experiences of being affected by migration trauma. Students shared how deeply appreciative they were that WSU in general would elevate this topic in such a visible and human way, and with impactful data visualization format. Because if you've seen the exhibit, it has actual toe tags and some in places on a map where they found bodies, and some of those are stacked on top of each other, so multiple people dying in one location. So again, that data visualization, very impactful. Students were particularly moved by this since migration journeys can be painfully off limits, even in their own families. And so one of the things that the students were hoping to get was to take photos from that day, share them with their families, and hope that their families would open up conversations about this very important topic. So I just want to say one more thing about this, because this is an important example in our DEI work. It's how we are focusing on pairing our what we might call our demographics diversity, the celebrations that we see, National Hispanic Month, Heritage Month, those celebratory events, which are very important, those demographic diversity with critically engaged diversity. And those are those experiences that really lead to those powerful and meaningful conversations that actually create change. So we like to focus on both of those things. Both of them are important, and we like to really make sure that our students get those experiences. So I'm going to end here in the bad news. Put up the bad news, the budget. But seriously, that's a little bit of sarcasm. So because though our budget situation is still challenging this year, we are really beginning to see cause to be optimistic about our future. So there's bad news in here, but really, truly, there is optimism. We do continue to see and experience a campus fiscal deficit brought on by our continuing enrollment decline and all of the higher costs that due to inflation that COVID-19 brought us. And I should say, although we worked incredibly hard in my first 2 years here as chancellor to overcome our $2 million deficit, which we did, we're now about $900,000 back in the deficit. So we're working to make sure that we close that gap in the near future. And as you saw with enrollment, we're very optimistic that we're going to be able to do that. Another sense of good budgetary news for us is that the number shows we have been working really hard to build up our reserves in targeted areas, and we're doing quite well. These thermometers up here don't exactly seem like we're doing very well, but when I got here, those thermometers were empty. So we are making great strides in making sure that we have reserves and backups in particular areas. So I'm very, very excited about that. Just one more bit of bad news, and then we'll close on a good note. We did, with other campuses this year, retain a consultant, VFA, to complete a facilities assessment of each of our campus buildings that happened across some of the system. And the preliminary data did show that the Tri-Cities campus has approximately $20 million in deferred maintenance, which is about equal to our operating budget for over the last year. So we need to work there too. So you'll see our capital reserves as we're trying to build that up as well. We understand we're not alone in this challenge, but the unique challenge for the Tri-Cities campus is that even with this beautiful new space that you're in, we are space constrained and we don't have a surplus of buildings that can accommodate moving labs or classes if we needed to do that for some particular reason. So we're very much focused next year on making sure that we find creative ways to make the renovations that we need to make the building improvements we need to make and to move forward. So how'd I do, Dave? Was I way too over? Okay, thank you. That was a lot to cover, so thank you for listening to that. And as always, I'm delighted to talk about WSU Tri-Cities. It's such an exciting place for me to be. I hope it's an exciting place for you to hear about. I'm inspired by our faculty and staff work every day. So thank you, Chair Dickinson, for acknowledging that today. We do work incredibly hard for the good of WSU. And I'm so pleased to be a part of that.
Thank you for that excellent presentation. Questions or feedback or comments for Chancellor Haynes?
Just one. So, Dr. Haynes, what's never part of your presentation is, since you are always in the day-to-day managing the campus, feedback I get, since I'm not in academia, I'm in the community. Community gives nothing but positive feedback about Chancellor Haynes and the work you've done bridging the gaps of partnerships in the community, partnerships with other institutions, and the pride they have in WSU Tri-Cities. I just wanted to commend you on that, one. And two, I was chatting with Regent Pico last night, and we were trying to remember what we learned in the lab the other day. Our take-home speech of WSU Tri-Cities as we pivot forward. I believe it was, since our proximity to the Hanford site was clean up to clean energy. Did I get that right?
You did.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
That's our elevator speech.
Thank you for remembering that. I think that is a big piece. It's a piece of our community. One of the things that I think WSU Tri-Cities needs to be involved in is making sure our community moves forward. So sometimes we get looked at as just that cleanup site in the middle of Washington, for goodness sake, but we have all the makings of clean energy here, including the resources and the companies and the innovation, especially from PNNL. And we are, as a community, moving forward into a clean energy space. So that cleanup to clean energy has been adopted by the community as where we'd like to go.
Regent Redmond, I see your hand up. Regent Redmond, are you able to comment?
Struggling to unmute.
My mute is being tricky. So sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, terrific. Super excited about everything you have going on as usual, and really sorry that I'm not there. I love visiting the Tri-Cities. On the new clean energy program that you are hoping to get funded, which I also feel very confident about. Will you have the space and facilities that you need for that? You mentioned constraints in that regard, or is there funding included in that proposed program to cover that for you?
Yes, there is funding in the proposed program to cover that for us. I don't know where to look. But
That's
yes,
all right.
Okay, so yes, there is definitely funding. We did consider that. We took that into consideration when we put forward the budget. When the governor requested a budget, we put that into the budget because we knew that there would be necessary space. So what we're looking at right now, we're actually looking around campus for building space. So we'll be likely looking up, we will be looking off campus for a building to hopefully lease to own so that we don't have to put up the money all up front. But in the next 4 years, be able to own that building from the funds that we receive from the governor. That was my optimistic statement. Knocking on wood.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Redmond. I saw Judy and then I'll come to Regent Shower.
I was just gonna echo some of what has already been said about the difference in what I hear from faculty. Since we hired you, you have done a phenomenal job in empowering your faculty to be positive about where WSU Tri-Cities is going and be involved.
They do the work.
They do the work, but they feel a part of things in a positive way that I was not hearing 5 or 6 years ago prior to your arrival. So thank you very much from the faculty side.
Thank you. Regent Shower.
You have a hard question.
I don't have a hard question. I have accolades and celebration. 2 comments that I want to make. The Design Build Institute of America, the award that you received is a really big deal. And an all-women design and construction and leadership team is a really big deal. So I have a little experience professionally in that space. And I just want to tell you that that it's something to be really, really celebrated. So congratulations to you and your team. And I just want to continue to applaud the work that you're doing around students of color, around first generation. And I think that it's easy for us to talk about celebrating days of diversity. And I think that's really important for us to do that. And the work that you mentioned, and I was trying to write down the specific words that you used about critically engaged and powerful and meaningful conversations that equal transformational change in ourselves and in the work that we do together as a community. And I think that's the work that really matters. And so I just really appreciate your leadership and the time that we have to spend here on your campus. So thank you for all you do.
Critically engaged diversity is what I used, and thank you for that, because I think, as we move the needle, that's probably what's going to continue to move the needle even further. Thank you. I do appreciate your time.
Thank you, Sandra. Appreciate you. Okay, we are moving now into, we have a special part of our program, accommodation for Colleen Kerr. So I'm going to just turn it to Kurt for a couple comments, and then I have a resolution to read on behalf of Colleen.
Well, great. On behalf of the leadership of WSU, we're just excited for Colleen as she takes her next step in her leadership journey. And I just wrote down a few points. When I came in 2016 and started working with Colleen, she really talked about there is nothing we can't do in the state of Washington. It may take a little bit more time. And some of the different things that occurred during her tenure as our vice president really speak to that ability to roll up her sleeves and get things done. She assembled a really amazing leadership team with a very deep bench. And I think whenever you have a transition, it's easy to take that for granted. But, it wasn't just 2 or 3 people there. We had folks with a lot of different expertise in areas across the state, and that makes a big difference as well. If I look at some of her accomplishments, and we'll read some of these in the resolution, we have a really, really strong partnership with our colleagues at the University of Washington. And I think that makes a huge positive difference for a lot of what we've been able to do in the state. Is there's tough things happening in public higher education, and we were always, not always on the same page, but almost always lots of conferring back and forth about strategy and what we were doing back and forth. And she and Randy worked very closely together. We look at the medical school, that does not happen without the advocacy campaign. I know it's easy to pick certain leaders and individuals, say they were it. It was a team effort by the people internal and external to WSU. And I always want to acknowledge that that doesn't happen with any one person. It happens with lots of people doing a lot of work, and Colleen led that. We don't have the Everett campus without Colleen's work. She was out in front and working with our ag partners in the state of Washington and making them not just in a college, but really be seen as it's an institution to institution level of partnership. Finally, there's a word, it's an old word that I think describes Colleen to a T, and I've made sure I want to read the definition, and that's a polymath. And here's what a polymath is. A polymath is a person whose expertise spans a significant number of subject areas, known to draw on complex bodies of knowledge to solve specific problems. And there is nothing we would ever come up with that Colleen did not have some knowledge or background in as she brought her team together. So Colleen, best of luck to you. I know that it's great for us now to have a true advocate on the Microsoft executive team. We appreciate your 13 years of outstanding service to Washington State University. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I will read the resolution. I would like to just personally, I've traveled many different journeys with Colleen, through the state legislature to Washington State University, and now you get to do the private sector. So yet another flag that you will have to put in your cap there, Colleen, and just a personal thank you on behalf of the Spokane community for the work and advocacy that you did on the medical school, and that effort that's, we collectively kind of lifted and carried for many, many years, and at times got tired, and you always gave a good little spark to get going again. So thank you. Resolution number 2303100679. Whereas on August 15th, 2010, Washington State University President Elson S. Floyd appointed Colleen Kerr Associate Vice President, Chief Legislative Officer at Washington State University. And whereas in January 2014, President Floyd promoted Ms. Kerr to Vice President for External Affairs and Government Relations and Chief Legislative Officer. And whereas Vice President Kerr has accepted the position of Senior Director of Government Relations for Washington State, or for the state of Washington at Microsoft. And whereas during her tenure, Vice President Kerr successfully led legislative and congressional initiatives to launch WSU Everett, the Elson S. Floyd College of Medicine, the Federal Aviation Administration Center of Excellence for Alternative Jet Fuels and Environment, and the construction of a new ARS building on the Pullman campus. And whereas Vice President Kerr has built an external relations and government affairs program that leverages the political strength and support of university stakeholders in campus communities and elsewhere across the state. And whereas Vice President Kerr has fostered strong ties state and federal legislators and leaders to ensure WSU students, faculty, and staff are heard, and has garnered tremendous support both at a regional, state, and national level. Whereas through strategic leadership, engagement efforts, and advocacy on behalf of WSU, Vice President Kerr has been a vital person to WSU's success. And whereas Vice President Kerr has dedicated herself to the growth and development of higher education for the benefit of the citizens of the state of Washington. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Colleen Kerr be commended and acknowledged for her remarkable efforts on behalf of Washington State University. And be it further resolved that the Board of Regents extends to Ms. Kerr its best wishes in future endeavors and presents this resolution to her as a symbol of the board's sincerest appreciation. I would like to at this time move that the Board of Regents adopt Resolution 2303100679, and I'm looking for a second.
Yes.
Thank you, Lisa. And now I'd just like to open it up for board discussion, as well as I'd first like to just offer the floor to Colleen.
Marty, thank you. I'll be honest, I wish it wasn't you talking very hard after all these years that we've worked together. Thank you. I've had the time of my life. It's been wonderful. Thank you. We've done so much together, and I love my team, which has been such a privilege. And Microsoft, when they first approached me, I said, I'm from Eastern Washington and I will continue to be from Eastern Washington. And they know that. So I'm very happy to work for a hometown company. John, I see you there. And it's been a privilege to bring you on board, another hometown company. But I'm very excited for the next steps. I'm very excited to be going to something, not away from something, and really looking forward to all the ways I will get to continue to work with WSU. I have to say, there have been so many faculty and leaders who have reached out to me over the past few weeks, and they're like, I want you to know X, Y, and Z about me and about what I'm doing at WSU before you go to Microsoft. And I mean, I'm probably one of the biggest fans and champions of WSU, and it has been so extraordinary to me to have learned so much more in the past few weeks, including today. Emails are continuing to come in. And so that is such a great place to be. And I will look forward to working with all of you in so many respects. I just have to say, Marty, thank you for everything. You have been a great friend and mentor. Thank you. And to all the Regents. Yeah.
Other comments for Colleen?
I just want to say that I appreciate your leadership, and from one individual that likes to drive solutions, I see that in you, and your ability to bring folks together to see a potential gap, whether it be in the universe of Washington State or beyond, and how WSU can play a role in helping to fill that gap and to solve issues that I think change the world. And so just really appreciate your contribution to WSU and the role that you played in helping me to sit at this table. So thank you for all that you've done, Colleen, and look forward to seeing what you'll do at Microsoft.
All right.
I'll say one. You know, Colleen, one of the greatest commendations anyone can ever give is when you look behind, did you leave the place better? And I think we can all agree that the place is better because you've been here and you left a path 100 yards wide and a mile deep. So thank you for all you did.
All right, I'm looking for a second on the motion. Oh, I got that from you already. So I would like to ask for a vote. All those in favor of resolution 230300679, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you. Colleen, best of luck to you. We know you're not far. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is before we move into our consent agenda, we'll take just a 5-minute break. As we do that, and as we have presenters that will be coming up, we'll be doing both our committee reviews, which I think will go quick. I would like to just remind our shared governance groups, your presentations are 5 minutes, and I'm going to keep us on track for that this time, if I can, please. Okay, thank you. We will be back. guys.
Yeah, so she got trouble.
We're gonna see you
Okay,
again.
good to see you too.
You know, it just shed.
Another-
And now.
In her office. She looks-
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Because I like.
All right, are we live? Okay. We are going to move into our consent agenda portion, and within our consent agenda today, we have the approval of our minutes from January 27th board meeting. We have an item for establishing the Bachelor of Science degree in cybersecurity. We have an item for establishing the Bachelor of Science degree in pharmaceutical and medical sciences. Would any regent like to remove any items at this time from the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none, I move to approve this consent agenda, and I am looking for a second.
Second.
Thank you, Enrique. Any discussion on these items at this time? Okay, all those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. The motion passes. Next, we are going to move into our reports from our shared governance. We do, just as we had for our presenters, we do have a little timer here, and if you can see it in front of me, I'm going to go ahead and start it when we do it for the 5 minutes for each and kind of work our way through our shared governance reports. So we are going to start with Mike Connell, our Vice President for Advancement and our CEO, as well as Lisa King, President of the Foundation Board of Directors. So welcome, Mike, and welcome, Lisa. They are joining us via Zoom.
Good morning, Regent Dickinson, and thank you. And thank you again for the opportunity to present. Disappointed not able to be there in person. Appreciate the technology and everybody behind the scenes that makes this work. Again, want to thank the Regents for your continued service to WSU. And a special welcome to Regent Pika. It's nice to see you. I look forward to actually seeing you, and we'll work with my team to set up a quick one-on-one to get reacquainted and chart our course forward. Also, just a quick thanks to Colleen again for her service, and Ellen Taylor for her service to WSU. I know we talked a little bit about women's basketball earlier, and not just congratulations to Coach Ettridge and the staff and players and the fans and donors to women's basketball. I just want to acknowledge how well the student athletes represented WSU after the game. If you haven't seen their comments, I don't think Phil or Bill or anybody else could have scripted that any better. On the philanthropy side, as of this morning, I know the slide says 61. As of this morning, we're at $74 million. It's still a little bit behind the pace that we would need to, if it were linear, to be on track to hit our goal, but I continue to be confident we've got a shot at hitting our goal. We've got over $127 million in proposals that have been submitted where we're waiting on responses from our donors. There's another $118 million in proposals that we intend to submit to folks this fiscal year. I know Kirk often gives some updates relative to private support. Last week, he and others had a chance to have dinner with David Pollard. David is a WSU graduate that recently made a commitment to name the Center for Arts and Humanities at WSU's College of Arts and Sciences here on the Pullman campus. And so they had a nice dinner last Friday. Just incredibly grateful for David and his commitment to WSU. And I'm really pleased folks had a chance to meet with David down in the Palm Springs, Palm Desert area to thank him in person. But this is a really impactful gift. We've got a number of other gifts that we haven't announced that are also helping us on our journey forward. Another $1.5 million has been committed to the Schweitzer building on the Pullman campus. Mary Rezak and her team continue to do a great job, and we are just about to the finish line in terms of the $40 million we're seeking in private support there. Working with Mel and Jennifer down in Vancouver, should have some paperwork wrapped up for $1 million commitment to their life sciences building project. Working with Daryl and his team up in Spokane, $500,000 has been committed to the what is referred to as the medicine building, the renovation of that, and real close to being able to announce a very significant gift to the College of Medicine to fund a new program. Mostly the message to you, the Regents and our guests, is this continues to be a team sport, and it is system-wide. You know, my comments covered a lot of geographic territory there in addition to the philanthropic territory. So I just want to thank everybody for their ability to collaborate and work together for our philanthropic success. We also have responsibility for the endowment. As of January 31st, the endowment sits at just under $654 million. So a nice recovery from the dip we saw. Appreciative of our investment committee, Regent Redmond's continued engagement with that group. So the investment committee is doing good work, and the endowment continues to grow with gifts and performance. Kirk kind of briefly touched on the early stages of this third campaign. We have started a series of small group in-depth conversations with our volunteers and some of our more engaged donors and prospects. We'll continue to do those for a couple more months, probably end up doing 12 to 15 of them to inform them a little bit of stuff where we think the campaign could take us and get their feedback in terms of both the messaging and where we're trying to go. On the heels of those, then we'll bring in Grenzabaglia, our outside counsel, GG&A, and they'll do some follow-up with interviews with probably about half the folks that we saw. And that will help us help us hear from our best prospects and donors in terms of what their attitudes and perceptions are relative to WSU's philanthropic goals. Another thing that I've asked my team to lean in, and I'll have an updated report on Monday. We are working on an updated, what I call a communications matrix, as we transition more into the campaign. It's a little bit of who hears from whom, when, and how often, and what the messages are. So whether that's something from Kirk or what are the chancellors, what comes from me, what comes from Lisa King, our board chair, and her successors, what might come out of Mariah's office, or from Mark, her current president, and his successors. So just trying to do this in the most efficient and effective manner that works for the recipient audience, and knowing that what works for one person is different than how somebody else may want to be communicated with from WSU. And with all the different modalities today, it's fascinating how that's evolved. So I know Lisa's here, so I'll just one closing comment. I encourage everybody to mark April 12th on your calendar. That will be this year's version of Cougs Give. That's our online day of giving. If you happen to be active on social media, I encourage you to consider becoming a Cougs Give ambassador, and that will help us spread the word. But participating in Cougs Give does not require social media activity. It does require you to make a gift. And so I encourage everybody to make a gift on April 12th in support of WSU and our day of giving. And if you're seeking more information for that, just cougsgive.wsu.edu is the portal for additional resources there. With that, I will kick it to our board chair, Lisa King, joining us from Tucson, the greater Tucson area. And I know she wants to update folks on our recent board of directors retreat, as well as the AGB leadership forum we attended in San Antonio. Lisa.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Chair Dickinson, for letting me join you today. Let's go in the time frame of where we went. So first of all, we were in San Antonio for the AGB conference, the largest attendance they've ever had at one of those events. And it shows that everyone wanted to get together with their cohorts and learn and network. We had a few takeaways that I'll share with you. I did have a slide presentation, but I got it to everybody too late, so I apologize. But my first takeaway from someone who attended AGB for the first time in 2019 as the chair-elect, as to the 2023 chair outgoing soon at the end of the year, that we are really on a great trajectory, and we've accomplished a lot in the 4 years in spite of COVID. We have moved forward with accomplishing a lot of things that we needed to do to enable the foundation to not only have best practices, but to continue to evolve and make sure that we are continuing to improve those best practices and to provide better services to our constituents. We also need to realize that the young people coming up behind us think completely differently about philanthropy than we do. And our thought processes need to evolve on that as well. One thing that I am really happy to announce is that I will be meeting with Chair Dickinson at the end of the month to continue to build board relationships between not only the foundation board and the chair of Regents, but also the foundation and the university presidents. The mission of the university is the roadmap for all of us to follow. And so therefore, communication between all of us is so very important. Moving on to our board retreat, we had a good attendance. I was thrilled to find out that all of our new board members were totally engaged and very into helping us move forward as a board with what we need to get accomplished. And so we have some good things coming down the pike, and we're really proud of ourselves, I guess, but also proud to be associated with the university and all of our constituents. Oh, hey, there's my presentation. Anyway, I will let you go ahead and let you read those slides at your own end time, and in the interest of keeping us on the time for this meeting. Thank you, and I'll turn it back over to Mike or Chair Dickinson.
Thanks, Lisa. I know Mark is there and he'll present on behalf of the Alumni Association, but I'd happily take any questions that may be directed my way or that I could kick to Lisa. I did hear you, Regent Dickinson, my tie is off. I appreciate that liberty. I hope that Regent Shower pursues that policy and maybe even puts the resolution forward on a permanent basis.
Great, thank you so much. Any feedback or questions for Lisa or Mike?
Just a little.
Brett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mike and Lisa, kudos. It's always great to see more great work done, and especially through the winter months. But some of your conversations with the chair will be, some of our hallway talk during this meeting has been, how can we find more ways to interact with the foundation board and the Regents proper? And as you discuss that and look for those opportunities, I believe at some level, as board members, we are ex officio members of at least some of the foundation aspects, but I'm never in the loop of the communications. And I would be interested in being more informed of some of your foundation activities as well. So that's just an ask, but a positive report of all you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Blankenship. As I talked about the communications matrix, how we continue to communicate with the Regents will be integrated into that. I know most of our stuff right now goes through Desiree, which is completely appropriate, but I think giving each of you the opportunity to say, hey, here's the amount of information we want, here's the cadence, here's the source. It's certainly part of the process, and I greatly appreciate the request.
Well, I want to acknowledge that we have obviously Regent Powell, who is our liaison between the two boards, and that there's probably opportunity just for the two boards at different times to a reception. I know you come to Pullman once a year. I mean, there might be things we can look at, and I know we've done things like that in the past. So I'll ask Kirk and Des to really kind of take that offline and work with Regent Powell as well around ideas of how we continue to stay connected.
And also Heather Redmond is on the investment
And
committee.
the investment committee, right? Yeah, perfect. So, thank you. Thank you for your report. Well done, and appreciate the hard work of the fundraising that you guys continue to do. So Thank you. All right, we are moving next to our Alumni Association report, and we have President Mark Schuster here with us, and we also have Mariah Mackey on Zoom with us. So hello to both of you.
Hello, it's nice to be here in person, and it's
And in
great
your
to have
home,
you in the
and in your own
Tri-Cities.
stomping grounds, you didn't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, the WSU Tri-Cities campus, I'm so proud of that, not as a Coug alum, but also I was born and raised in Richland, so I've seen the campus grow up over the years. But also, and Sandra mentioned, also as a member of the business community. And, you know, I'm on several business-related boards in this area. And Sandra's part of them. I mean, she is part of the business community. And so you really work on those ties because we're all working together with some really common goals. So that's been great. So I do apologize. The last meeting I wasn't here. You got to meet Lester. And I was in an airplane coming back from an international trip because everybody in the world loves Lamb Weston French fries, right? So, which is always good. But you got a chance to meet Lester, who'll be the next president. He was our Hawaii chapter president and just did amazing things, and they continue to do amazing things. So look forward to handing them over. And this will actually be my last region meeting, unfortunately, because on the next one, I'll be flying back. Again, making sure people love those Lamb Weston French fries, but I'll make sure I get back before graduation. I won't miss that by any chance. And so, so a couple highlights. So again, Cougs Give, Mike talked about that. We're really happy to announce that there's a new way to give, Cougs Give, for the Alumni Association in 23. Past Alumni Association President Doug Wilcox and his wife, Judy, funded the WSU President's Excellent Endowment. I think a lot of people in here know Doug and Judy. They're as big a Cougs as you'll ever meet. So this endowment is about, you know, funds for the Alumni Association. So it's really great. So if you're looking to give, that's one option, as well as, you know, you can support our multicultural chapters and other options for the Alumni Association. You know, Doug and Judy, they represent, it's special to me because I've known Doug since I was 16 years old. So he is a fraternity brother with my father-in-law, Jack Glover. And so they were Sigma News together. They still get together 60 years, this group of Sigma News, all Cougs, still get together in Lake Chelan every summer and tell the old stories, and the stories get better as the years go on, right? But I've always said, boy, that just represents WSU. 60 years later, and this group of Sigma News are still getting together, sharing the Coug spirit and having a great time. So I'm really proud to announce that with Doug and Judy as well. Talk about what WSU, we had our third annual Women's Leadership Summit. And really part of that One WSU initiative. And it was really powerful summit. And we had alumna from all of our campuses represented. And so if you didn't get a chance to see it, the good thing is it's on, go to our website and you can find the recording of it. But it was very powerful. They talked about their experience at WSU. They talked about their learning. They talked about leadership. It was just an amazing hour and a half. So really encourage you, if you didn't get to see it this year, that's on, but our previous two are on there as well too. But what a great representative of all of our campuses and the great alumni that are part of that. Katie, if you watch it, Katie facilitated the conversation. She's going to be president in 2 years. She's a global campus grad. I joke with her. I think she graduated also from the Merrill College because she's amazing at facilitating these. I've seen her do it a couple times. But again, you'll really enjoy getting to know Katie over the years as well too. But in conjunction with that, the WSU Spokane campus had an in-person watch party, networking event, Q&A afterwards. So again, just looking at continued ways for One WSU. We also had a Coug in the desert. Lisa mentioned it, that we had the foundation board meeting down there. But something we did this year is really cool. I mean, in that area, there's a lot of Cougs that either live there or winter there. So after the foundation meetings, we had a WSU evening with leadership in Scottsdale. President Schultz was there, and it was there's over 150. I mean, the room was packed, and it was just really engaging. All these Arizona Cougs are just saying, man, this is awesome to have a local event, and all the leadership there, and chancellors were there, and different departments were there. And then we had a watch party and watched the Cougs beat Oregon State afterwards as well too. So really great event.
Marty was there.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of us there.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, why wouldn't you go somewhere where you thought it was going to be warmer, but it wasn't?
Yeah. And then in conjunction with that same idea of bigger presence down in that area, on March 5th, an annual event we have, Cougs in the Desert. It's a golf tournament, a social event. WSU head volleyball coach Greeny was there. And then all the proceeds go to scholarships. So raised over $30,000 for scholarships for that as well too. So a great example of student affairs and the foundation and Alumni Association working together to put on this event. And again, thanks to Chancellor Metzhammer, who was also there and shared some updates about 1WSU and what's going on with WSU. So really fun weekend there. One thing the Alumni Association does, if some people may not know, we also have traveling the globe with the Alumni Association. So right now it's sold out. So you just have to look for next year, but we have a wine and food journey with the Alumni Association this year, going to Rioja and Basque regions, where alumni and friends, they get to experience the food and wine at different destinations. And it's sold out this year, so look for it next year. I think some people in this room may have been on there before, but Melanie and Joe, who are the founders of Cinder Wines, are also going to join. So I want to go on one of them someday, but it's this total immersive Coug, wine, food, international trip. Sounds pretty fun, doesn't it? And we also have a more local wine and food with Cougs on the Lower Salmon River. So same concept, you're with Cougs, all exclusive whitewater, wine, food, guided whitewater rafting trip. Again, I think there's a few slots open, but that always sells out as well too. So there's some of these events, the Alumni Association travel program. Some people may not know, but there's some really first class, world class travels with Cougs events going on as well too. It's almost membership appreciation month in May. One thing that comes out, I want to remind you about the Washington State Magazine. That month in May is just for members. And so it has a bunch of content that's really meaningful to Alumni Association members, the over 45,000 strong that we have. So look for that. And there's all kinds of things that go on in membership appreciation month. So if you're not a member, join up before May. If you are one and you forgot to renew, be sure to remember to renew. Or, I got a great idea. If you don't want to worry about having to renew, become a lifetime or platinum member, then you don't have to worry about renewing, right? So it just keeps going every year. So we're excited about Appreciation Month as well too. So again, like I said, this is my last meeting. So I just wanted to take just a second on that. So last year in Spokane, when I was sitting next to Shelley and we were talking, kind of doing the transition, which I'll do now for Lester. Here you go, Lester, right? I talked about a few things from my side for the next 12 months. I tried to get them to let me change the bylaws. I could do this longer, but they wouldn't let me, right? Because 1 year goes by too fast. But we talked about new executive director coming on board. We onboarded. Mariah's done just an amazing job, hit the ground running. And so really excited about that. I talked about 1WSU. We've talked about it multiple times here. We've made great strides. And the cool thing about that, we are just at the tip of the iceberg of that, but really have made strides in the past 12 months on that. Talk about supporting the amazing staff and the volunteers of the Alumni Association. I think we've done that great, been able to hire some amazing staff. The volunteers are the heartbeat of the Alumni Association, so continue to support them. And we talked about supporting the foundation, and that's really what we do every day. At one meeting Mike was at, he said in a meeting, hey, it starts here with the Alumni Association. And we take that to heart. I mean, we know that, last year we did over 1,000 events, and we know that those are critical. We do them in person, we do them online, we do all kinds of things. Some big ones like the LA Bowl, right? The pregame parties and all that. But we know that it starts with us. And so we take that, we own it. We're excited about that. Last year I've been engaged with Cougs in the Tri-Cities online all over the country, Arizona, Pullman, Las Vegas, Los Angeles. I mean, all over the place. And what a treat for me to be able to do that. So, I'll just end with, again, I think the first time I met with you, I shared one of my first memories was that 82 Apple Cup, Go Cougs, when they beat the Dogs. But since that time, I've had lots of titles. I've been a fan, I've been a student athlete, I've been an alumni, I've been a Cougar Athletics board member, Alumni Association board member, but truly it's been an honor to be the president. My youngest is a junior. He may give me that title of Cougar Dad. We're looking at that, right? I think he's zoned in on the Murrow College of Communications, so maybe I get that Cougar Dad. But to truly be president has been an honor, and I appreciate what we can do here. And one of the special things you get to do as a president is you get to speak at graduation, and you get to welcome the now graduates into the Alumni Association. And so I did that this winter, and there's not a chance I'm going to miss it this spring, but just a little bit of reflection on that. So you're sitting there on stage, and you got 850 graduates there, and you got the fight songs playing, the confetti's dropping, Butch the Cougars on stage, and it's really powerful moment. But what made me think is that all of us play a part in that, on all 850 of those people, and that's the meaningful things we do. And we all do it our own way, right? And it doesn't matter how you do it, but you're doing it. So all those 850 graduates, we all have pride in that. We've paid it forward. We're the future leaders. So that was just again, that was an honor to be part of that. An honor to represent our volunteers in the Alumni Association. So again, thank you for the time. I apologize, I probably ran over a little bit, but again, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Just a big round of applause for your service to WSU. Yes, please.
Since this is your last time reporting to us as the president, I just want to thank you for all you've done. Your enthusiasm is just infectious. And after I've been on the board since 2014, and what a change there has been with the Alumni Association. When I first came on the board, it was very focused on Pullman, and now it truly, even though it's the tip of the iceberg, you all have worked very hard to make all the campuses feel included, represented, and you're helping to expand the Cougar enthusiasm throughout the Cougar Nation. So thank you very much for all of your efforts and your leadership.
Appreciate that. Thank you for that. Thank you.
And just a quick acknowledgement too. We have Mariah on the call, and you're doing a wonderful job, Mariah. You're leading the charge on that. So we're lucky to have you, and glad we stole you from the University of Arizona. So. Okay, thank you very much. Next up, we have our Faculty Senate Chair, Christine Horn, who's joining us via Zoom this morning. So good morning, Christine.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Since the last Board of Regents meeting, Senate has brought in several guest speakers to talk about issues of interest to faculty. Laura Greiner-Hill spoke to us about the results of the coach survey, and we're interested in finding out more about those results and what WSU will do in response. We know we have room for improvement and look forward to finding out what that will look like. Chris Keene spoke to us about our research achievements and the ROI on various investments, including, for example, on new faculty seed grants with a return of 10 times. We're proud of the research accomplishments of our faculty. Our faculty representative to the state legislature, Steve Bolins, provided us with a legislative update. We continue to examine processes for reviewing new degree and curriculum proposals, both to clarify and streamline procedures and to facilitate faculty carefully considering student demand for programming and student success. We appreciate the communications from President Schultz that he mentioned regarding WSU's fiscal health. We see them as really useful for helping faculty perceptions be grounded in facts rather than guesses. As you know, universities are very complex institutions, but our fundamental mission is clear. We can think of a university as being like a farm. And instead of growing carrots and tomatoes, it's growing knowledge, skills, insight, and understanding, whether through research, the classroom, or community collaborations. Growing knowledge and skills is the reason for our existence. Given current budget constraints, faculty believe that now more than ever, WSU needs to be laser focused on our mission. In a complex institution such as ours, it's easy to get distracted. A conscious focus on our core mission means that for every decision we make, we ask, how will this affect the growth of knowledge and skills? Is this decision, practice, or policy growing knowledge? We appreciate the leadership of university and campus leadership in working through the difficult and complicated challenges that we've been experiencing and keeping WSU on track. And we appreciate the Regents' support of WSU and your support for our core mission. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you for being very concise in your report. So I'd like to open up questions for Christine at this time, or for our faculty. I see very well. Okay, there we go. Any comments, questions? Right, well, you're on the home stretch here now, Christine, so I know kids get wacky from here on out, so good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you in May.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, all the best to you. Okay, next up, we have our ASWSU Tri-Cities president. This is always a great fun one. And his name is Isaac Moroquin. And Isaac, welcome.
Thank you so much. Just a wonderful good morning to all of you. I'm extremely excited to be here. Chair Dickinson and esteemed members of the board. As you said, I'm Isaac Moroquin, the ASWCTC president for this year. How do I start? Well, let's get started. So I am currently seeking a bachelor's degree in English literature, and I've started here since 2020. So I've experienced both the COVID area, the online Zoom area, and of course, being back in person. And one of the biggest challenges we've had as an associate at an organization is building back campus culture and cultivating what once was into what can be and what is. I'm pleased to present to you all the excellent things that this organization has been able to accomplish, and innovative work that has not been only integral to our campus, but also to the WSU system. The Associate Students of WSU Tri-Cities has been at the forefront of developing and creating a campus that is more than just a commuter campus. With continuous support from our organization, we have not only been a beacon of student outreach and advocacy, but walking champions of diverse representation on this campus. Through the programming of this organization and the partners we've created, the student body has made connections with faculty, staff, and also forged strong relationships with the Office of the Chancellor. ASWCTC has made a point to not simply meet expectations, but set a standard to not only ourselves, but other campuses. As the chair of the System Student Government Council, ASWCTC has supported fellow ASWSUs and has been a key operator and strategic partner for the planning of Coup Day at the Capitol and also running the event itself. I have also had the opportunity to be a committee member for the esteemed search of EVP of Finance and the Administration for the WSU system, displaying both a voice for WSU Tri-City students and students across the system. One of the concerns that our Student Government Council has really seen is a mural that was established by our Student Government Council in the past. And we really felt a disconnect with our student body and how we felt towards that mural. So we really wanted to modernize that mural, both pay homage to the work that had been done before, but create something new with the students we have now. And as a commitment to not only our collaboration with students, but student excellence. So we tabled and did a lot of events focusing on student outreach engagement, and created a couple different concepts for what this new mural could be. And we've been really proud to see the students be engaged and engaging with the work, not only that we have done for this mural, but for what this mural represents for all our students. We've also been keen on creating a campus culture that has been inviting and equitable to all students, from our uniting and popular lattes with leadership, which is more than just coming in for every coffee at our coffee shop, but truly engaging with the concerns and the advocacy that is needed from our students and how we can start to bridge those gaps. We've also been keen with our Coup Pride events, making Fridays known to wear your Coup gear, celebrate what it means to be a Coup, and also be present on the events that happen on this campus, not only from our ASWCTC organization, but from OSL, from SEB, and a lot of the clubs that are existing and are continuing to grow in membership and are developing in amazing ways. Some of the things that have been noticeable from our campus have been our campus barbecue we did in the spring, which united all of our campus and was sort of a kickoff to an amazing school year, and a holiday photo that we did in front of the amazing Coup Pride statue. I hope you get to see it, but it's just an amazing picture of different students, faculty and staff, and was just an amazing opportunity for all of us to unite and take a holiday picture to celebrate the winter break. And it's just one of my favorite memories that we've been able to do. We've also made strong connection with our nursing campus, as we have seen a large disconnect from our students, as our nursing campus is located a little ways far out, and we've seen a disconnect from our students. Our associate student body has made events and has traveled to that campus and started to bridge those gaps. And that's one of the things I'm really proud of. Lastly, we have made a dedicated movement to support the growth of our clubs through ASWCTC's Finance Committee, both opening the door to new clubs, but also being able to provide opportunities for all students within all paths in their engagement. I've also been extremely proud to say that I love this campus culture that Tri-Cities has. There's just nothing like it. The connections and relationships that we've been able to foster through this year's leadership has been astronomical. I can truly say that this campus and this organization has been building a campus culture like no other. And I hope with our new execs to truly continue to push that work forward and continue to build that growth, not only for our organization, but for all the campus as a whole. Thank you very much.
Isaac, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? So what are you studying? Where are you from? What brought you to WSU?
Yes, so I'm an English major. I hope to teach high school English. I'm going to be applying to get a master's in education. Like I said, started in 2020. So I joined the Student Government Council as a senator. Last year I was the vice president, and this year I had the opportunity to be the president. And
are you from the Tri-Cities?
I am from the Tri-Cities, local to Pasco.
Nice, very good.
Are you first generation?
I'm first generation.
Laura.
First of all, thank you very much. And you are very articulate. So I know that you will make a wonderful teacher, and students will be lucky to have you. I have a question. You said, because you said about doing the outreach to the nursing program. Are you talking to the one down on Lee Boulevard?
Yep.
Okay. I don't know, I know there's been some nursing students up in Yakima and then the area. Do you connect with them at all, or do they have their own association?
So we know that students that are tuition fee paying students for Tri-Cities fall under our gap, under our group. But what this administration has really been focusing on is bridging that gap. We know that in years past, there has been a disconnect. We do have a representative for the nursing campus on our student body, but this year we really focused on how are we meeting those gaps? Are we heading over there? Are we making sure we're marketing to those students? And of course, creating a campus here that is welcoming to students that don't take classes here, but are very much a part of who WSU Tri-Cities is. So we've definitely started bridging those gaps, not only on our campus here, but also on our Yakima students. I actually just got an email from a student a couple of days ago. So it really shows that our commitment to engagement and our commitment to welcoming those students into this culture. So I hope
Okay, well, I think that's great. And my only other comment would be, as I'm sure you know, we have a global campus with WSU, and I know they've been working very hard since they are online to connect with students. So they may have some ideas that they might share with you as well as you're sort of building this out.
And I've had an amazing opportunity through my opportunity as chair of the Student Government Council to meet with all the other presidents of our ASWCU. So really an honor just to serve on that as well, but also be able to take and share ideas. So
That's
I always
great.
appreciate that.
Well, kudos to you and your team.
Ramos has a comment.
I just wanted to also thank you, Isaac. I love your enthusiasm, and I see such a bright future for you. You mentioned that the new administration is transitioning. You have 11 senators, new leaders. What's the most important or effective way of passing the baton to ensure continuity and to sort of accomplish what you want to do to build on the future?
Yeah, so my commitment has always been to the students and student engagement. Elections have always been a tricky situation here on our campus because of that engagement issue, but on our election in August, we had astronomical numbers of students running that we had not seen before. So I want to make sure that not only in this election that's coming in for our new students is to have those numbers, but also adequately prep time and build in time to teach our new executives how to do this position. Because I really don't want there to be 2 months, 3 months of turnover still learning, because this role happens really quickly and the academic year happens really quickly. So really ensuring that our executives know who our administrators are, know who the department heads are, of course, to start building those partnerships once more, but to really start to engage with the campus. And that's really the key of any role in student government, is how we're going to engage with our campus and how we're going to make a positive impact.
You mentioned something about a mural. And there was an issue with that, or can you explain what the mural is?
So currently we have a mural in East. It was an advocacy effort that was made from an ASB.
Where is it at?
The East building here.
Okay.
And we've had a couple of years now where our student body is just not connecting with that mural. Some people call it dated. I wouldn't call it dated. But we want to make sure we're making a new representation that not only meets the expectation of our students now, but also for many generations to come with Coops.
But what does the mural have now?
So the mural right now has diversity, a kind of celebration of diversity. So what we've done now is we're really putting together a new image of what diversity means to all of our student body, both as a commitment to first generation students, students of color. So we're really excited to see that. But we've also started a process to get a mural up on our collaboration hall, not collaboration hall, our learning commons. That is a Coug Pride centric mural. So ideas such as graduating Cougs, a celebration of crimson and gray and how that brings all of us together. So a lot of amazing concepts that represent us, but also represent us in the future.
Great description. Yeah. Very well stated. So thank you for joining us. Nice to meet you.
Thank you for your time.
Take care. Okay, next up, we have our final shared governance report, and that is coming from our Admin Professionals Advisory Council, and we have Chair Angie Center, I believe joining us virtually. I see you there, Angie, so welcome, and we'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you for having me. APAC has met several times since our last report out. So in January, we were able to meet with Christine Hoyt, the Vice President for Strategy Planning and Analysis, and she was giving us updates on the strategic plan. And in February, we were able to meet with 3 members of HRS to discuss the Fair Labor Standards Act, the Equal Pay and Opportunities Act, and changes to the temporary, hourly, and non-permanent appointments, which were all areas of interest for AP employees across the system. And our March meeting was actually yesterday, and it was very well attended. And we talked about the limitations and the opportunities surrounding the employee tuition waiver program, and got a lot of valuable insight there. We would like to say congratulations to the 41 new AP employees that were added to the system in January. So we're very excited to welcome new colleagues with us. And our current area of focus is APAC Staff Appreciation Week, which is set for April 10th through the 14th. All events will be available via Zoom, so all campus locations and extension are invited to those. Any questions or comments in regards to APAC's current work?
Questions for Angie on that? Okay. Thank you, Angie, for joining us this morning.
Great, thank you for having me.
All right, at this time, we are moving into our committee reports. I will start us off with our Executive and Governance Committee report. We had a pretty brief agenda on that. And so one of our action items is a proposed revision to our Board of Regents bylaws. And so I'm going to be bringing forth this motion. So before bringing the motion, I note for the record that it was decided that this item will be presented as an action item rather than a future action item in accordance with our Board of Regents bylaws 1122 or 1112B. I move that the Board of Regents approve effective May 1st, 2023, proposed revisions to the Board of Regents bylaws. 1, changing the treasurer from Vice President for Finance and Administration to Executive Vice President for Finance and Administration. And 2, adding Executive Vice President to Article 2, Sections 11 and 12, Article 5, Sections 2 and 3, and adding Executive Vice President to Article 4, Section 2. So I'm looking for a second to this motion.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Any discussion on this particular action item? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. This motion passes. Next, we will move to Regent Shetler to give us an update on strategic and operational excellence and a committee report. We don't have any specific action items, but we did have a jam-packed series of presentations. So I'll turn it to you, Regent Shetler.
Thank you, Regent Dickinson. Yes, yesterday the Strategic and Operational Excellence Committee met. We had a very full agenda. We had one information item and two focused discussions. The first information item was an overview and update on faculty compensation. It was presented by Executive Vice President and Provost and Pullman Chancellor Elizabeth Chilton and Senior Vice President and Provost Laura Greiner-Hill. So over the past 8 to 10 years, when we compare WSU professor salaries to 22 peer land-grant universities, we find that WSU professor salaries are lower, with the largest disparity at the professor level, approximately $60,000. Associate professors and assistant professor salaries are in the range between $24,500 and $17,400 respectively. Let me back that up. I said $24,500 and $17,400 respectively. I think I said 100,000 in there, and that was erroneous. Sorry about that. Anyway, as a result, over time, these ranges make it difficult to attract and retain faculty. The university performs in-depth exit and retention surveys to better understand circumstances around faculty decisions to stay or move on. We heard loud and clear that recognition at a national level as well as an endowment level are important factors at retention because educators aren't motivated by money alone. It means a lot to them that they are recognized for their good work. And there was discussion on how to increase recognition through endowment and the work that needs to be done on that front. I'd like to thank Elizabeth and Laura for their work in this area and look forward to working with them on this important topic throughout the year and in the years to come. The first discussion item was on enrollment management, and it was an update by Vice President for Enrollment Management, Sachi Oba. Spring 2023 enrollment is down roughly 6.5%, whereas first year enrollment is up roughly 4%. And transfers are up as well. Some of the contributing factors have been the long tail of COVID, where we find that rural universities are taking longer to recover. Community and tech colleges are also seeing a slow return, which impact transfers. So what are we doing to improve enrollment? The acceptance of the Common App has been a big improvement for students that are applying, as well as the university is doing a lot of work helping families with cost affordability. And they've stepped up the reinvestments of advertisement throughout Washington, California, and other key states to prospective students. Guaranteed admission to WSU to 8,000 Washington high school students through the significantly expanded guaranteed admission program, and partnering with community colleges to remove barriers. This spring, more than 100 upcoming high school visits will occur, college fairs, transfer visits, expanded, and also the expansion of the Western undergrad exchange. Sachi discussed a few goals, such as to improve confirmations for the fall 2023 admission and preview events, new COOG orientation, and start planning for fall 2024. Sachi has done incredible work since joining WSU, and I'd like to thank he and his team for their hard work on growing our Cougar Nation. The second discussion item was marketing and communications update from Vice President for Marketing and Communications, Phil Weiler. Phil discussed headwinds such as perception about whether or not a 4-year degree is worth the investment. We've also been dealing with student deaths on campus, the issues with the football coach, the arrest of a former student as a suspect in the homicides at the University of Idaho last year, and the challenges around funding of the comms department and its team, which has hampered our ability to tell our story. such as improving the lives in Washington, WSU Extension, the fact that WSU has a presence in every county in the state, the improvements in rural healthcare, food safety, energy, and water resources. We saw several videos and other examples of upcoming marketing efforts targeted on enhancement student recruitment. Much of the content was produced in-house and with faculty and students. Phil talked about foundational tools to enhance recruitment, search engines, media reports, video assets, management software, and project management tools. Phil, I'd just like to say thank you for all that you're doing to reframe the narrative about WSU and to highlight what a wonderful gem the university is in our state. As Chair Dickinson mentioned in her remarks this morning, Phil, you and your team have navigated some very difficult media cycles over the past several years, and on behalf of all Regents, as well as faculty and staff, I'd just like to say thank you. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Regent Shetler. Comments or feedback? Anything we would like to add at this time to our Strategic and Operational Excellence Committee report? One piece that I think I would like to just add is I think we were, or I personally was a little remiss yesterday in the discussion around marketing, Phil, as it pertains to understanding all the university assets, because we didn't really get into understanding how the roof is the roof, and then you have little houses that are really actually big houses under the roof. And those are the campuses, the individual campuses that also have marketing assets and communication assets. And I think we probably as a board need to understand that a little better around how that works as a system, as well as then how you coordinate and work with each campus. And how do we leverage all those assets collectively, and how we're looking at it system-wide, but also how you look at that. Sometimes I know the branches inside my hometown of where headquarters sit sometimes feel like, well, since headquarters is here, they get everything, but that might not always be the case when, and I think Pullman probably struggles with that a little bit of, well, the mothership is here, but Pullman still needs something, Vancouver needs its piece, and they're all very unique and distinct. So I'd like us to revisit that and understand what all of our assets are. And then the last piece, I know that you and Kirk will kind of take this offline to talk about some things, but I'm willing as a participant to maybe go another step, even if it's an internal component that Laura's referring to, of creating a small subcommittee or roundtable where we bring all of our marketeers and communicators together within the system. And I'm willing to kind of help lead that effort with you. And support it from a Regent standpoint. So I just wanted to add that and have that kind of added for the record as well, Regent Shetler. Okay, thank you again to all the presenters in this space. It was a great portion of our day. Next up, we have our Academic and Student Affairs Committee report, and Regent Cerna.
Well, we had items that actually became action items, which we've already taken action.
That's right.
On those action items.
Within the consent agenda.
We're in action. We heard from Executive Vice President Provost and Pullman Chancellor Elizabeth Chilton on the establishing the Bachelor of Science degree in cybersecurity, as well as the Bachelor of Science degree in pharmaceutical and medical sciences, and we took action on that this morning. We also have another action item that regarding WAC 5042 its policies and regulations for student living. We heard about that and have talked about that with Elizabeth Chilton, as well as Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, Ellen Taylor. And this is basically the requirement of freshmen to live in student housing that first year. And that's an action item that we are going to act on today. Are we taking that action item now?
We are. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and I have that language.
So do I move on that, or do you?
I can read that for us and
Okay,
we
go
can
ahead.
go ahead. So,
Madam
okay. The proposed revision to WAC 504-24030 undergraduate housing requirement. I move that the Board of Regents approve revisions to WAC 504-24030, the undergraduate housing requirements as proposed. Looking for a second.
Second.
Thank you, Regent Cerna. Any additional discussion on this topic? Dr. Taylor, I think we really feel very encouraged by this. And I think as a board, we believe this is a really good move for our incoming freshmen to have a year in the scope of Washington State University and really get them off on the right foot. So thank you for championing the work here.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
We have a hand up, I believe.
Oh, I think they were just aye as in
Geez,
they
an
voted.
aye. Okay.
Yes, well, it's hard because Heather uses the
I know.
old fashioned hand and then.
I know. I don't know, is that talk to the hand or?
Talk to the hand, old fashioned hand, I'm voting yes.
Thank you for the hand. Okay.
So
All right.
thank you very much and thank you for your report, Regent Cerna.
Oh, actually, we have one more.
Oh, we do, okay.
Yes. Yeah, you're trying to run right over.
I know,
me.
sorry.
I know we want to end this here.
No, you are action oriented.
Yes, all right. Actually, this is an information item. We heard from actually Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, Helen Taylor, as well as others from other campuses, Vancouver, Everett, and here in the Tri-Cities regarding student affairs. And really a system-wide update on how our students are doing, programs in place, mental health issues, as well as, coming back to campus after COVID. So we heard from all of the campuses how they are doing, and for the most part, there is progress. I think that we also are still in that kind of post-COVID mode, and as students come back to campus and just the adjustments there. So we had some really good reports about all of those, and appreciate that very much. And so future goes on, and the students are doing well. So that was the information item, and now I report to that.
Thank you, Regent Cerna. Appreciate that. Okay, moving into our Finance and Administration Committee report, and I'll turn that to Regent Shower.
Thank you. We have no action items, but as anticipated, we will have multiple action items in May. We had an information item by our Chief Audit Executive Heather Lopez. Let me make sure that I got that correct. Heather was both transparent and candid regarding some of our internal audit and a report out on the progress of our audit plan. One of the areas that Heather has done a really nice job of keeping us updated on is regarding some of the staffing challenges. And so Heather has made some really good progress as it relates to both the strategy to both internally hire as well as outsource some of our audits, ensuring that we're moving forward with that audit plan that this board has seen. We also heard a report from her regarding the Clery Act audit. I was pleased to hear in our pre-work as well as the report out that she gave to the board that some of the high-risk areas have actually been resolved. So between the report within our board packet to her presentation, there's been progress made there. We had 7 future action items, and many of those items were related to the tuition and fees, which we will take action on in May. And again, just so pleased with the team that Matt is leading relative to the response from the first conversation regarding the tuition setting, and really understanding that as a reminder, we have had the opportunity in January to first engage as a board around tuition setting. This is a bit of a change because we have 3 opportunities to really dig into the tuition and fees. And so yesterday was our second engagement around that, and then we'll take action again in May. So again, very much appreciate Interim Vice President for Finance and Administration, Matt Skinner, and Executive Director for Budget Planning and Analysis, Kelly Westoff, and their response to the questions that we had in January, particularly around student experience, affordability, predictability, and financial sustainability. All four were addressed in the presentation. A couple points that I want to add in my report out relative to outcomes of affordability that I think are important to note. Our tuition rates are lower than they've been in 10 years. That's something I think significant for us to remember. And that our resident undergraduates are graduating with no loan debt has jumped from 39.6% in 2014 to 50% in 2022. So while these conversations about increases in tuition and fees are difficult conversations and ones that I know this board does not take lightly, I think that these outcomes are tremendous emphasis around access to our financial aid team, to FAFSA and WASFA education, the continued link to our enrollment team. We appreciated having Saichi here talking to us about how that enrollment strategy links to the ways in which we're trying to ensure that we have a student experience that is affordable was, I think, really important. We also spent some time looking at the proposed tuition rates and understanding those historical trends and benchmarking. I know that's something that we each appreciate, is understanding how we fit with our peer institutions. And so we were able to look at that. Beyond the tuition and fees, we also talked to Dr. Ellen Taylor regarding housing and dining rates, and spent some time with Assistant Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs and Finance, Linda McDermott. This is also a continuation of work we've done over the past few meetings, and actually a year ago when a consultant spent some time with us, in particular around ensuring equity in our housing rates, the underpricing or the overpricing. I think the intentionality that I have always appreciated about Dr. Taylor's approach in how equity plays a role in our housing is so important in what we were able to engage in the conversation. And then again, just a link to our student experience and how it continues to be part of that enrollment, and whether that's a barrier or something that we need to be paying close attention to. So it was, again, another full finance meeting, but an opportunity for, again, another strategic discussion and engagement. So that is my report, and I turn it back over to you, Chair Dickinson.
Thank you, Regent Shower, appreciate that. Okay, yesterday, March 10th, the Regents did meet in executive session with legal counsel to discuss pending or potential litigation involving the university. To that discussion, we do have an action item, and that action item is as follows. I would like to adopt resolution 230-310-680, approving the request for defense of a university employee. And I am looking for a second.
Second.
Thank you, Regent Blankenship. At this time, any discussion? Okay, so I, with that, would ask all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you, motion passes. Next up, we have our public comment period. We do have 2 people at this time signed up for public comment. So I'd like to welcome Simon Smith, who is an alumni of Washington State University. And he is here to speak to us on the divestment of fossil fuel. Is that Simon up there at the top?
Thank you. Good morning. As mentioned, I'm a 2009 alumnus at Biological Systems Engineering, but more recently I've been paying attention to what the students have been doing towards fossil fuel divestment. And one of the things that's quite remarkable is that when people talk about divestment, there's often this concern expressed that the alternative investments will not generate sufficient profitability. And in a way, it reminds me of the Oscar Wilde quote about the cynic who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. The reason it's important is people forget the value component. And so if people were to look at WSU and say, what are WSU's values? I think a good example would be the president's recent trip to Kenya, where he probably got to see firsthand the contribution of WSU and their efforts to improve animal health The reason that's important in Kenya is because animal health translates to human health. Human health goes to human wealth, economic improvements, and political stabilities. So that foundational thinking and contribution, I think, is a good example of WSU's values. This stands in stark contrast to WSU's investments in fossil fuels, which, as everyone knows, do have important health and economic ramifications. One of the things we forget is, and we've got used to, is that the combustion of fossil fuels generates particulates, and these are known to be killing about 9 million people across the planet each year. We do have to get away from that type of activity. And one of the ways that WSU can help in that respect is divesting from fossil fuel investments. So what I'm like to do today is just to add my voice to the students' concerns about fossil fuels, and also ask that each time you hear somebody bring up the point about alternative profitability, it's a good time to bring up WSU's real values, which reflect positive contributions and the need to divest quickly from fossil fuel investments. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. We appreciate your comments and for joining us today.
Thank you.
Next, we have Washington State student Ryan Culp. And Ryan is here to speak with us about divestment of fossil fuel. Welcome, Ryan.
Hi, thanks for having me on. My name is Ryan Culp. As you all have heard so far, I'm a third-year student, WSU, majoring in neuroscience. I'm the treasurer at the RSO organization at the ESA, Environmental Sustainability Alliance, and I'm also part of its subcommittee, Fossil Free WSU. Fossil Free WSU is requesting, like Simon said, WSU to fully divest its endowments from the fossil fuel industry, specifically in the type of investment firms and hedge fund type organizations. Excuse me. The world is facing a climate emergency, according to 2022 report by the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. We need an immediate and significant reduction in emissions to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius increase and maintain a livable climate across the world. Institutional divestment of fossil fuels is an effective way to achieve this reduction, and we are calling on WSU to join the 69 U.S. colleges and universities who have already committed to fully divest. We're encouraged by the efforts on the part of the WSU organization in this direction. For example, creation of an environmental sustainability task force this year, largely for the purpose of helping WSU's carbon footprint, including in investments. And thanks again for that, guys. That was awesome. But the UN report also stated we need an immediate reduction in emissions. Effective action must be taken soon. Sorry, I got dry lips. We at Fossil Free WSU understand that our university's oil and gas investments are indirect. That is through third-party financial instruments. So that divestment can be a complicated process. We also support phasing out of these investments on a schedule that does not jeopardize WSU's financial stability or increase fees. However, is WSU moving on divestment as quickly as reasonably possible? That's the question I want to leave with you today. The world is in the midst of a climate emergency. Thank you. And thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate your comments and for being here. So thank you. Okay, that is all I believe at this time we have signed up for public comment. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, thank you to the Regents and a special thank you to Chancellor Haynes and all of the Tri-Cities team that hosted us here. And as always, we would be remiss if we did not actually thank the woman behind everything, which is Desiree Jacobson. So thank you for getting us all here and putting this all together for us. Deep gratitude, along with Joel and all of you guys. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. So with that, we will be adjourning our meeting. The next board meeting that we will be hosting will be May 4th through 5th in Spokane, Washington. So thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. Travel safe. And